Welcome back to the next chapter of Carnivale. It's March 1st, and we're just about to go to a yoga class in a couple of hours. All right. Ava woke to the clatter of the market coming back to life. She sat up, cold and stiff, rubbing life back into her hands, trying to ignore the sharp pangs of hunger in her belly. She fumbled around for the owl mask, only to find she'd rolled it onto it during the night and it was broken into pieces. Tears sprang to her eyes. Sure, it was a piece of market stall junk, but she'd liked it and it had helped take care of her. She shook herself hard, 'cause tears weren't going to help her, and shoved the broken pieces into her pocket. She wriggled out of her hiding place and came around to look at the shrine. Her candle was still burning, more or less, but the flame and the lights hanging in the trees looked washed out and sickly. Reaching out, she touched the little statue of the Buddha and thanked him for keeping watch over her all night. Even as she did so, she laughed at herself. Silly of her. Auntie Eve had tried to warn her about having a sentimental streak. Wishin' all very well, Ava, but wishin' won't help in need. You gotta be doin'. All right, Auntie Eve, she mumbled. Better get's doin'. Ava took stock of her situation. Early morning, dawn, light trickling between the buildings. Later, when the sun was higher, it would be warmer, a nice spring day. But right now, there was a chill to the air. Ava could cope. Evansville was freezing in the winter months, and Uncle Nate wasn't so good at making sure there was wood or coal for the fire. Yes, she'd cope. And now all she had to do was make it to mid-morning, make the call, and surely then these people, whoever they were, would help her, somehow. There was a baker's stall across from the shrine, opening up for breakfast. The smell of fresh bread was tantalizing. Ava walked over and, catching the stallholder's eye, said, "Excuse me, ma'am. Can you tell me the time, please?" "It's a little after 6:30, honey." Ava sighed. "Hours to kill." "Thank you," she said, and turned away. "You don't want anything, honey? It's all freshly baked." Ava held out her hands. "No money." "No cash, eh?" The woman looked around. "Who's you with, honey? You seem a little young to be out on your own at this time of day. Where's your ma and pa?" Ava shrugged. She shoved her hands in her pockets and moved on, trying to think where she could go. Maybe back to the park? Would they mind if she sat there until it was time to make the call? Found out whether there really was someone out there who could help? "Hey, wait!" Ava turned to see the baker running toward her. She stopped to shove a pastry into Ava's hands. "That should keep you going a while," she said. "You in town by yourself, honey?" Ava nodded. "You got a place to go?" Ava half shrugged, half nodded. "Maybe." "Well, you keep your head down till you're fixed. Do you understand? And listen." She leaned in. "Keep away from the sheriff's men. Some of them, they ain't good. And they're particularly no good for girls like you. You got that? Don't ask for help from anyone like that. Because you can't tell the good ones from the bad. And the bad ones won't be helping. They'll be hurting. Got that?" "Don't ask for help." Ava nodded and went on her way. She walked slowly down the street, past the vidphone, and to the park. When the security guard arrived to open up, he recognized her at once. "Back again, huh? You're keen." "I like it here." "Seems so. Band'll be comin' out 1 to 9, he said. Then seeing her face went on. "Cheer up. It's the first day of Carnivale. Ava tried to follow his instructions, but there wasn't much fun to be had watching other people enjoy themselves, and the band were playing songs that reminded her of Auntie Eve, and that made her feel worse. She was glad when the time came to make the call. She left the park and went back to the vid phone. She watched the Juicy Fruity Bunny and even started to hum along with the tune. When that finished and the display came up, she put the card into the slot like she'd done the day before and touched the screen to call the new contact. Connecting. Connecting. "It's Ava," she said, and the lights stopped flashing. "I was told to call after 10. A voice came through. No face again. "There's an address put on your card. Look it up on the map when we're done. You need to get there by 3 this afternoon, and no later than 3:30. Got that?" "Yes, ma'am." I got the call disconnected. Ava found the new contact. Mag Cork Motel and Bar, Celestial Way. She touched the words, and a map popped up on screen. Right by Robbie Docks, where the spaceship's berthed. Looked like a long walk. She took the card out of the slot and walked back to the market. The baker, seeing her approach, gave her a warm smile. "Hello again, honey," she said. "You all right? How was that pastry?" "It was grand, ma'am. Thank you. Much appreciated." "You need something else?" "I need to ask my way. If you can help, I'm to meet a friend over by the docks." "The docks?" "Where the spaceships come in." "I know the docks, honey, but are you sure? It's not very nice over there." "I'll be okay," said Ava. "How quick can I get there?" "Quickest ways by tram, but Ava didn't have money for the tram. "And walkin'?" "Walkin'," the woman said. "You sure this is a good idea, honey?" "I'm sure. She's a family friend. Friend of my Auntie Eve." Which wasn't quite a lie when you thought about it, and mentioning family seemed to make the baker happier about sending this girl off by herself. "Walkin'll take you a couple hours, maybe a little more. It's a long way." Ava nodded. That was enough time. "It'll be fine," she said. "Thank you very much, ma'am, for all your help." "Wait a moment," said the woman. She went round the stall and then came back with a paper bag, which she shoved into Ava's hands. "Something for the journey," she said. "You take care now." Ava, a lump in her throat, couldn't reply. She went on her way. From the bag rose up the warm scent of bread. Neapolis stood at the mouth of a mean little river that crawled north through almost the whole of Bethel's main continent. Dotted along the river like junk stones on cheap necklace lay the mining towns. Mal could see those places in his mind's eye. Poor, old, dusty places. Everyone there with a hacking cough, right down to the smallest kids. Kind of place you ran a mile from, should the chance ever arise. No life for anyone there, just hard work, company rules, and most likely a preacher man telling you that you should be glad for the little you got. Not that Jacob Roberts would be spending much of his time in towns like that. No, sir. Jacob Roberts was a rich man, fancy as Kaylee might say, who clearly liked the best of everything. Look at this room now. Jacob Roberts' office. 6 stories up on a big steel building that lay at one end of the Platinum Mile. A corner room with 2 walls made completely of reinforced glass. Mal would bet the last of his own platinum that Jacob Roberts often stood here to look out across his kingdom and think about what a mighty fine man he was, with the best of everything, top of the world. But out of the corner of your eye you can still see the desert, hard and red and unforgiving. "Not the prettiest of planets, is it, sir?" said Zoe, her voice low. What makes you say that? Said Mal. Surface all painted, and when you look closer, you see the chips and marks, all done on the cheap. Yes, well, we're not here to admire the architecture, Zoe. I know I'm not, said Jane. Close your jaws, Jane, said Mal, and keep 'em closed. Zoe wasn't wrong, though. Mal had noticed the same. Coming through the city, Bethel's location had, by good fortune, put it safely away from the war between the Alliance and the Independents. The residents had used this position, far away enough to avoid the main fighting, but close enough to play both sides to their advantage. Made promises to everyone, even kept some of them. There were many here that made a lot of platinum during the war. Could you fault them for making fine, upstanding citizens of Bethel wanted to enjoy the benefits of being a core world? Comfort, security, shiny offices, and not much thought for any suffering that might have been caused along the way? Take a look at this room now. Great big desk, made of chrome and steel, empty, except for a state-of-the-art console. Mal didn't meet too many men as fancy as this one, but when he did, he was always struck by how empty their desks were. They had people to fret the details, of course, just had to sit around, look at the black leather chair. You could sink right into that and shout out a few orders, and people would jump and do whatever you told them. There was a lot of leather in this room, Mal thought. The shepherd was standing over by an ostentatious bookcase next to the door, stuffed full of volumes bound in the stuff. A lot of cows had given up their lives so that Jacob Roberts could look like a learned man. Said the shepherd, closing the book he was holding, slotting it carefully back into place. He came to stand with Mal and Zoe, admiring the view, taking in everything around him. Whatever this man had been in the past, Mal thought, he weren't always a preacher. He moved like a soldier, but smooth, like a well-kept machine. Still, Mal was glad he'd offered to come along for this ride. No way he would have dragged the doc along on this jaunt. For all Jane's goading, for one thing, the boy was dead on his feet. For another, he would have been less than a paper hat in a foxhole. Still, no harm in tweaking him. Keep him on his toes. Boy had to learn to live in this world he'd choose. Worse people than Jane after him. Mal's eyes flicked over to Jane, prowling around near a flashy display of whiskey bottles. Had the doc worked out yet that Jane had done back on Ariel? Mal wasn't telling, that was for sure. It was all over and done with as far as he was concerned. Maybe the doc would have his own opinions on that, should matters ever come to light. Yet another complication from bringing those two on board. Interesting planet, remarked Book. Jane would say so, said Mal. You know, if we'd come 50 years ago, there'd be nothing here but desert. A few wooden shacks, you know, the kind of place. Mal knew the kind of place intimately. I sure do. Now look at it, went on Book. He rested his hand on the glass, and they both stared out along the Platinum Mile. Babylon the Great. Mal did not always appreciate how the shepherd's mind turned inevitably Bible-wards. He had to admit that the comparison was apt. The mile was a long boulevard that sliced through the heart of Neapolis. Two long strips of grand and gaudy buildings, casinos, hotels, clubs, venues for all manner of entertainments, fine and not so fine. These buildings glittered in the morning sun. Come the evening, the view from the spot would be of sparkling lights, the glitzy fronts and facades of the big casinos. On the main night of Carnivale, there was the parade, and on the last night, In Grand Green Park, at the far end of the mile, there was a huge fireworks display. Yes, thought Mal, if you stood here, in this office long enough, you might make the mistake of thinking you were the king of the verse. Come out of her, my people, the shepherd intoned softly, so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues, for her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Revelation 18, he finished in a cheerful voice. One of my favorite verses. You're a brave man, preacher, said Zoe, quoting from the good book in present company. Book smiled. An apt quotation, though, wouldn't you say? Babylon fell in an hour, if I recall rightly, said Mal. I don't see Neapolis and her people fallen anywhere but upwards. God's plan, said Book, are not always clear to us. As long as he got nothing planned for me today other than smooth sailing toward a profit, God and I'll rub along just fine. Mal turned away, signaling in the firmest way possible that this particular line of conversation was now at an end. The door opened, and their employer, Jacob Roberts, entered behind him. Came another man in a sheriff's uniform. Mal stiffened. So did Zoe. Goram, sheriffs. Was there a warrant out on me that I knew nothing about? Hard to keep track of the things sometimes. Captain Reynolds, yes? Said Roberts. He strode across the room as if he owned the place. Which, Mal thought, was fair enough, on account of the fact that he did own the place. And he came to a halt next to Zoe. He was a big man. He had an inch or two at least on Mal, maybe even on Jane. And he was broad, too, not carrying weight so much as bulk. Mal would hesitate before throwing a punch on him. Not that he thought it would come to that. Mal had his eye on the sheriff, who stayed over by the door and did not proceed toward arresting any person present. Admiring the view? Said Roberts. I do it all the time. When my grandfather came to Bethel as a boy, he had nothing, and he built this. He waved his hand to encompass the mile. All this out of nothing. Well, thought Mal, sharing a look with the shepherd, there would have been more to the whole business than that. Some shady dealing, certainly a great deal of violence, and no doubt a fair amount of other people's labor, slave or otherwise. Mighty towers didn't raise up in the desert all by themselves. Roberts turned his back to his inheritance and took his place in the big leather chair. Take a seat, all of you. The four of them did as instructed, and Mal, sinking back into a seat, could see now how carefully the desk and chair had been positioned. Roberts was lined up so that the big boulevard, the whole empire, was stretching behind him. Looked fine, but Mal had something else preying on his mind. Forgive me for stating the obvious, he said, but there's a sheriff in this room, and hard-working and law-abiding though I am, I'd still like to ask whether or not this is a prelude to some kind of unpleasant officialdom. Sheriff Zhao, said Roberts, by way of introduction, and Mal, twisting his neck to try to take a good look, saw the sheriff touch the brim of his hat by way of greeting. He wanted to meet you. Pleased to make your acquaintance, said Mal. Huh? Said Zhao. Any particular reason you wanted to meet us? Mal tried. I wanted to take a good look at you, said Zhao. I don't have the people to cover this job, not during Carnivale, so I suppose you'll have to do. Thank you for those kind words, Sheriff. I know your type, Reynolds, Zhao said, with a sigh. If there's even the slightest spot of trouble, I'll lock you up, and I'll take your ship. I've neither the time nor the inclination for anything out of the ordinary this weekend. Then you can sleep easy tonight, knowing we are the same mind, Sheriff, said Mal, words as smooth as he could make 'em. I've neither the time nor the inclination, neither. Straightforward job, straight in and straight out. Might take a day or two after to enjoy what the world has to offer, but then we'll be on our way. Happy now, Marcus? Said Roberts. Guess I'll have to be, said Zhao. He nodded at Zoe and the shepherd. Miss, he said. Preacher. He eyed Jane, snorted, and then went on his way, closing the door behind him. Roberts, leaning back in his mighty fine big leather chair behind his mighty fine desk, looked at Mal and his crew like they were something he might not be pleased to find stuck on the heel of his boot. I heard you were a maverick, but is there any particular reason you brought a shepherd along with you? Always nice to have someone who can put in a word with the Almighty, said Mal. In the unlikely event I want a sermon, I'll know who to ask, said Roberts. Let's talk business. Roberts pressed his hand against the console, and the surface of the desk came suddenly to life. A map of the city. A map of the city of Neapolis. Mal leaned forward. Easy to spot the Platinum Mile, and the red dot to one corner marked their current location, seemingly. In about 2 hours, the upcountry train from Nashton will arrive at Great Northern Station, said Roberts. Comes in at that time twice weekly. And today, a very special shipment arrived. 10 crates worth. That'll be the Herbonium, said Jane, as if for all the world he knew what the hell he was talking about. A man who knows his minerals, said Roberts. Lasers, said Jane. I like 'em. Usually, this shipment comes through the week before Carnivale, said Roberts. There have been some delays this year, for reasons with which you need not concern yourselves. Your concern is no more and no less than seeing that these 10 crates are brought safely from the train depot to the spaceport and put on board the Millicent, which is due to take off later today. Millicent, huh? Said Jane, and snickered. Sounds girly. Shut up, Jane. You were saying, Mr. Roberts? Yes. You're to escort the shipment safely from here, as he sketched the route, a red line lit the way on the map, to here. So all they had to do was move these crates round the northwest edge of the city. All the clearances, Mal checked, automated. At the depot, you shouldn't have to speak to another living soul. There'll be folks at Robbie Docks to help you load and move the shipment to the Millicent. Huh, said Mal. That'll take about 2 hours. Yes, said Roberts, for which you're paying us. 200 platinum, yes. There was a pause, while everyone did the sums. What they earned hauling those energy bars to patients, Mal thought, a job had come with all manner of trouble, not to mention many unkind words about his character. 200, said Jane, incredulously. What's the catch? No catch. It's straightforward job, and it's easy money. Ain't no such thing, said Jane, fairly, Mal had to admit. All I want is for this to be done quickly and quietly, said Roberts. I want no trouble, not at all. Certainly not from you and your people. If trouble comes your way, I want you to do what's necessary. Zhao won't press charges if there's any shooting. Shiny, muttered Jane. Any unnecessary shooting, clarified Roberts. And I want no shooting at all if that can be helped. I want the shipment off of Bethel before the party starts tonight. Now, I'm sure I don't need to tell you. Whatever it was, thought Mal, looked like he was about to tell him anyway. That I am a powerful man on Bethel. If anything goes wrong, I'll be holding you people fully accountable. The shepherd inserted himself back into the conversation. No reason to think anything should go wrong, said Book, unless there's something we don't know. Nothing to know you don't know already, said Roberts. Book, with a frown, said, That's not quite the same thing. Leave it, Shepherd, cut in Mal. Man said all he wants to say, and I don't see us needing to know more about his business. Job's clear to me, clear to you, I'd say. Good, said Roberts. Then we're done here, and you can be on your way. The train arrives at Great Northern in a couple hours, and you're not being paid to sit around here. There are 2 trucks downstairs for your use throughout the job. Get yourself and your people and your preacher over to the depot, Captain, and see this business done. I want this off my mind before Carnival starts. Robert stood up, Mal standing across from him at the desk, and for the hell of it, offered his hand. Roberts, caught unawares, shook it. Always shaking a deal, said Mal. The gentlemanly thing to do, and we're all gentlemen here, aren't we? I know I am, sir, said Zoe. They left the office. Didn't like him, said Jane, after a while. I'm sure he'll be heartbroken, said Mal. He only had good things to say about you. Did he? Jane looked baffled. When? You didn't like him either, do you, Shepherd? Said Zoe. Oh, I had no particularly strong feelings either way, said Book. One thing caught my eye, though. What was that? Asked Mal, since the shepherd's opinions was always worth knowing. Did you notice, said Book, that most of the leather in there was fake?